So here's 5 quarterbacks I'm going to bench heading into Week 10. And the first guy's Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. He's playing this Thursday night versus the Indianapolis Colts. And Tannehill was also a guy I recommend you drop heading into Week 10. But anyway, if you got Tannehill, I wouldn't play him. Tannehill, he's got a tough matchup versus a Colt team that gives up not many fantasy points to quarterbacks. Believe it or not, is this Colt team. They're underrated defense. They give up the least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. And Tannehill, the last 2 weeks with 21 and 18 versus solid defenses. And this week, I don't see him doing much again as Tannehill. I think it's going to be a Derrick Henry game where they're going to try to rely on him, get him going again after he struggled the last 2 weeks as Henry. And it's winter football now. And this is where the Titans, I've been saying it for weeks and I'm going to say it again, I think they're going to go run Henry heavy, rely on the defense like they did last week, and have Tannehill throw the ball 15, 20 times. So he's the first guy I'm going to bench. The second guy is Lamar Jackson, who I don't know what's happened to him this year, but teams are catching on. They're making him trying to throw the ball now instead of running. And the Colts last week holding him to 18 fantasy points only, Jackson. The rushing touchdown and rushing yards saved him. He had 58 rushing yards in the rushing TD and only 170 yards passing. This week he's got New England. I know Joe Flacco just threw for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns on the Pats on Monday Night Football. But Lamar Jackson, I know Bill Belichick, that game plan this week is going to be to shut Jackson and Mark Andrews down and let the running backs try to grind it out and beat him. So Jackson, I don't like him in this matchup. I don't think he's going to do much again. He'll probably get 18 to 20 points. But where you drafted him and the production that he's been putting up hasn't matched. The next guy was staying in the same games, Cam Newton. I recommended dropping him a few weeks ago, but obviously people picked him up again because of the matchup versus the New York Jets, and he didn't disappoint. He had a pretty good fantasy day, was Newton, with 25 fantasy points, 274 yards, only 16 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 carries. But Newton, he took a couple shots. He's got a stiff neck after coming out of that game. One hit, I don't know how he got up from Austin Davis. But anyway, Newton, he's got to verse this tough Baltimore team on Sunday Night Football, and I don't think he's going to get the job done either. This game is going to be more defense, I think, or more running games in a grind-out type of game. So Cam Newton, he's a guy I'm definitely staying away from in this one. The next guy is Joe Burrow, the number 1 pick following this year's draft. Burrow, he's had a couple great fantasy games, and it seems like each and every week he's improving. He's on pace for 4,500 yards, believe it or not, which is great for a rookie. But right now he's got a tough matchup versus a tough defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who give up the fourth least fantasy points to quarterbacks. So that could spell trouble for Joe Burrow. I know he's coming off the bye. He's had time to rest and study up for the Steelers' defense. But the Steelers here, they took the Cowboys a little easy. I think this week with no Ben, if you don't play, this defense is going to try even harder. And they're going to have to rely on that defense more than the offense to win in this week. So Burrow, I just don't like the way this matchup's going to pan out for him, and I think he won't have that good of a game is Joe Burrow. But the rest of the year, I like his output, but just not this week. And the 5th and final quarterback I'm benching is Teddy Bridgewater of the Carolina Panthers. Bridgewater came off a surprising game last week in Kansas City with a huge fantasy day, 32 fantasy points. He had 310 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 19 rushing yards and a touch. So Bridgewater, he's a competitor. We saw Christian McCaffrey come back, but he's banged up with the ribs and the shoulder. So who knows if he's going to play this week. He's day-to-day, Matt Rule said. But anyway, now he's versing a Tampa team at home as Bridgewater. Tampa Bay, I know they got lit up by Drew Brees and the Saints. But this whole team, they're going to come out hungry and pissed. And you know, Todd Bowles, he's going to make adjustments. And this defense, they're going to adjust and play better this week. So this week, I just don't like Bridgewater. It seems like he's an every other week quarterback. He never puts 2 weeks in a row together, really. So he's a guy I'm going to stay away from. So that's 5 quarterbacks I'm going to bench heading into Week 10.